This ball is crushed. She is on! Fires! The chasing game! They're done! Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL. Series! Gimme! Make free! Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss!
Well, yes, unfortunately, a somewhat embarrassing loss to the Giants yesterday afternoon, taking the fall against the San Francisco Giants 11-10, being up at one point, I believe, 10-6 in the 8th, which is not a thing you want to see from the bullpen, especially one that's shown a lot of promise here this year so far in the Nationals' pen. But Mitchell Parker, he's had a good year, just not yesterday. But props to the Giants. Reaver San Martin had a great outing. Did not allow a run. And that Giants offense is a very good one. As long as their front office can get in order, they're going to be a contender quite soon. But the Giants are not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about the Washington Nationals. And that is why we are DC SportsTalk Xtra. I'm your host, Jack Morrison, and this is DC SportsTalk Xtra. And today we make the case that the Nationals do not just have their one guy, their face of the franchise, as an all-star. They've got 4 of them. Not 4 faces of the franchise, 4 all-stars. I want to make that clear, as we're not a super team yet. But there's a legitimate case for these 4 guys to represent the National League. And the first one, we've obviously got the face of the franchise, James Wood. Now here, just give me a second to pull up his baseball reference page, because boy, we got a lot of things here to look at. Now, the most important thing with James Wood is, obviously, you understand, he is the cornerstone of this Nationals rebuild, right? We've locked down an outfield position. He can play anywhere in the outfield, really. He got a lot of reps in center field last year, when, of course, Jacob Young and Dalen Lyle were both injured at one point. And he is certainly one of the best players in baseball, at least by advanced metrics. And let's take a look at some of those now. So, obviously, first things first, you have the fact that he leads the National League in runs scored with 60. Which alone, I mean, the league run score should be enough of a case to send you to Philadelphia, where this year's All-Star game will be. But he's done it in 317 plate appearances, which leads the National League by almost 15. The next is 302. And that should be enough. I mean, he's got average 271, only 95 strikeouts, which is better than the last few years he's had. He led the league in strikeouts last year. 221, that's not a good sign. But a steady increase on his batting average, 271 lifetime. He's hitting 262. But a major step forward in the batting average department this year. Has a 407 OBP, 527 slugging, and a 934 OPS. Now, there's one advanced statistic that I want to look into that is really important. Now, he has an ROBA of 410. So ROBA, one of these advanced statistics that you can look at, it is a measure of a player's offensive contributions, but they're weighed in proportion to each event's actual run value. So James Wood leads the National League with a 0.410 ROBA. He is second in the MLB, only to Yordan Alvarez, who has 415, and he's having an unbelievable season. And Yordan Alvarez is a clear favorite for the All-Star game. And James Wood is too, just not as much as Yordan Alvarez. But they're having pretty similar seasons. You look at Yordan Alvarez, Wood has 17 home runs. And Yordan Alvarez, obviously, was part of that Cuban Baseball Classic team, World Baseball Classic team. Same sort of deal as Wood, in that bats from the left-hand side of the plate. Differences. See, he's got 22 home runs. That leads the American League. But here's another thing. Yordan Alvarez has scored 46 runs and 77 hits. Wood has 60 runs and 70 hits. Yordan has more plate appearances. They've both played in the exact same amount of games. And Yordan's WAR is 1 point higher, or is 1/10 higher, sorry. 48 RBIs for Yordan, 41 RBIs for James Wood. But, again, this ROBA stat, 410 for James Wood, this is really showing his value on the offensive side of things. With the Nationals, he has become their driving offensive force, which, I mean, you've got more than 30 spots for the All-Star game for one team, obviously. You get so many players involved there, and he deserves at least one of those 30 spots, and I believe he should be starting in one of the corner outfield spots for the National League. Now, the other All-Star that the Washington Nationals have that most people would think, all right, so he deserves an All-Star selection, is C.J. Abrams. C.J. Abrams, starting shortstop for the Nationals, has not had a spectacular season yet, but this season is looking like it might be. He has played in 67 baseball games this year, has 43 runs on 70 hits, same amount as James Wood, but certainly less runs scored. Now, in the past, James Wood, and he's broken out in 2024. It was his rookie year, and he had a great 2025, great 2026 so far. But then you look at C.J. Abrams. He's not had a really breakout season yet. You look at 2022, hit 246. 2023 hit 245. 2024, again, hit 246. 2025 was his best season up to that point, hitting 257, and had a career high 20 home runs, but only 60 RBIs, which was not. He had more in 2024 with the Nats. Slugged 315 that year. But then you look at 2026, and he is just obliterating the baseball. In only 67 games played, again, he has half the hits that he did last year. He has 70 hits, 140 from last year. He has 288 plate appearances. He's got 43 runs scored, which is more than half of what he did last year, which was 92. In only 67 games played. We're going to play a lot more games this season. Now, 51 RBIs already. Last year he had 60 RBIs last year, 51 RBIs a month before the All-Star break. Has 10 stolen bases, and has 29 walks. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that for James Wood. James Wood leads the MLB in walks, by the way. He was intentionally walked 4 times in a game last year, obviously. Only other player to do that, Barry Bonds. And he leads the MLB in walks, which is obviously it explains a lot to his sort of ability to track pitches at the plate, obviously. But then, also, guys just don't want to pitch to him. Yeah, 55 walks. And 12 stolen bases, for that matter. Which is very good for a guy his size. 6'5", the guy's an athlete. But anyways, back to CJ. 29 walks, only 58 strikeouts compared to this time last year. He had, let's see, where did my sheet go? Gosh. 76 strikeouts, June 10th of last year. Had 125 strikeouts total. So he heated up towards the end of the season, but now only 29, and it's June 10th. And again, that ROBA, has 393. So again, in the top few for the National League. So last year was his career best season, and this year is blowing that one out of the water. He has 129 total bases, again, which is compared to last year's 251, and then the year before that, 2024, was 234. He is tearing up everything, and he leads all of the National League in... Gosh, I had another sheet for that. Where'd that go? I am very disorganized today. Leads the NL in games played, or leads the NL shortstops in games played and in hits with 70. So these two cases are pretty clear. I think at least one of them should start the All-Star game. I think the better one of that would be James Wood, but C.J. Abrams is second in the with all shortstops in the MLB. Is that right? Yeah. Wait. He is second in the league in all of the MLB in home runs, with only behind Colson Montgomery. So 14 home runs for Abrams, 16 for Montgomery. Abrams tied with Willie Adames, Gunnar Henderson, and Bobby Witt Jr. have each played 67 games so far. Abrams has third most hits, only behind Bobby Witt Jr. and Otto Lopez, who are both other strong All-Star cases. He has the sixth most doubles. He leads the NL in triples. Or excuse me, not just the NL. These stats are all of the MLB. So he has, second in the MLB in hits as well for shortstop and in home runs. So this guy is having himself a career year. And again, 29 walks, which is sixth in the MLB, which would make him... That would put him second in the National League. The only other NL guy on that list is Dansby Swanson, who, of course, has a wonderful eye at the plate. So, yeah, those are the two locks for the National League All-Star. James Wood, face of the franchise, leads the NL in run scores. One of the best offensive players in baseball by those advanced metrics, and the centerpiece of an offense that has become one of MLB's highest scoring units. The Nationals do have, as of yesterday evening, they have the most runs scored in the MLB. Just the pitching staff that's causing them problems. And is already putting together the kind of season that gets MVP mentions. He is second, at least in projected MVP voting, behind, obviously, Shohei Ohtani. And honestly, forget All-Star. James Wood's season, right, so far has crossed into some MVP discussion territory. And he's the easiest national to argue for the All-Stars. Now, Abrams, right, that stronger case than most people will realize. He's driving in runs at an elite rate for the shortstop, right? He has, where did that go? 51 RBIs. This is the second in the league in RBIs is Brooks Lee in shortstops. Brooks Lee has 38. James Wood is 51. He is destroying the league on that front by a lot. 13 more RBIs than Brooks Lee, who's second. And is, again, that top of the order with James Wood, they are the engines of that offense. He plays a very premium defensive position, and he's got a great glove. Abrams, I believe, if I can find his fielding. Where is it? Yes, he leads the league currently in double plays fielded, which I don't know how much that's going to help. But he has a .958 fielding percentage, which is very good for a shortstop, I will say. Does have a few errors, though. 11. Ooh, that's not good. But he has played 576 innings there, which is more than any other shortstop has played at that position. So, a lot of errors. I mean, not even a lot, but quite a bit of errors. But a lot of innings. And he does make some sparkling plays there. And speaking of the sparkling plays, he's also a spark plug on the base paths. He's become not only a middle of the lineup, top of the lineup bat, but also a speed guy. He has, where'd it go? It went away again. There it is. Got 10 steals already, second on the Nationals, only behind, of course, James Wood, and is one of the, I feel like, let's double check this. Yes, is fifth among all shortstops in stolen bases, only behind Trey Turner, Connor Griffin, Jose Caballero, and Bobby Witt Jr. So the guys that are in the conversation for the fastest players in the league on that front. So then you have, I've got an interesting point here that I want to make. Now, C.J. Abrams, he's having a career year, having one of the greatest seasons that the MLB has seen from a shortstop in a while. Would C.J. Abrams be getting more national attention if he played for the Dodgers or Phillies? Now, probably yes, because a lot of fans still think of Abrams as that guy from the Juan Soto trade. He is becoming a lot more than that. All right, so those are our two locks for NL All-Star. Here's where things get interesting. Let's talk about Foster Griffin. Most casual fans, they couldn't pick Foster Griffin out of a lineup. Yet, he is piling up wins. He has become a stabilizing force in this rotation, which the Nationals have not had for a while. He has helped keep Washington in the wild card race, currently fighting for the last spot with Arizona, who holds that spot, and is producing a great season while carrying far less hype, obviously, than James Wood or C.J. Abrams. So here, let's have a look at his stats now. He 2023 to 2025, he did not play. He was in the Nippon Professional Baseball League in Japan, but has a 7.78 win-loss percentage, 3.63 ERA in 13 starts. He is 7-2. Is only allowed 14 home runs, which is the tied for the lowest in MLB. Allowed 58 hits, all around middle of the pack there, and allowed 33 runs, which is in a lot of the top categories for pitchers. If we can check, yes, he is. That'd be 28th in the MLB, 13th in the NL. So a very good season for Foster Griffin, a breakout year, 109.7 whip, pretty solid, not great, not like starter worthy, but Foster Griffin deserves a case here, because if he wore this is the same scenario as C.J. Abrams. He's producing while carrying far less hype, right? If he wore a Yankees uniform, would he already be considered an all-star lock? Now, the challenge here is pitchers they're selected differently, and wins alone they won't get you anymore. But still, he's got a real argument. Now, the fourth one is Cade Cavalli. He's my fourth all-star pick from the Nationals. And this is the one I feel like that's going to make a lot of you all quite mad. He was the opening day starter. He is the ace of the Nationals rotation. And then when people talk about why the Nationals are suddenly relevant, his name comes up immediately. And several analysts, including, what was the one I checked earlier? Locked On Nationals podcast, hosted by Ryan Clary. This, I mean, he hit the nail on the head there. And the reason why he talks about, you've got this electric stuff from Cade Cavalli. He has reinvented his pitching arsenal This offseason, he completely changed everything, redid his slider, his splitter, and has been, a lot of people have said he's the biggest reason, including the sports junkies for 106.7 The Fan. Give them a listen on the radio. Locked On Nationals, that podcast I just mentioned. And even MLB Network, A-Rod, Ernie Johnson, a lot of these guys talking about Cade Cavalli, and they are viewing him as the reason why the Nationals have all of a sudden don't have a disastrous rotation anymore, which is honestly the bar that we've come to now, which not ideal, but now here's the counter argument, right? Obviously, still a month away from the All-Star break, so one rough outing that'll swing perceptions quickly. So obviously, still a lot of time. And secondly, the NL's loaded with pitching, obviously, and pitcher selections, of course, are always crowded. So I think Cade Cavalli is going to be the hardest of the four to get in, but the fact that we're discussing him even says a lot about where the Nationals are. So the biggest thing about Cade Cavalli, though, isn't necessarily his numbers. And this is what I love about him, because it's finally time to recognize that he's become what the organization had hoped he would be when they drafted him in the first round. Because you got to remember the timeline here. He was a top pitching prospect out of Idaho High School and in college. Made his MLB debut in 2022. Was all right. Tommy John surgery in 2023 wiped out his entire season. Misses essentially all of 2024. Had a lot of back injuries and then an oblique strain. And then in late 2024, like December, he tore his quad. Returned in 2025 late and pitched a lot in AA and in AAA, and then was named the opening day starter. That is a huge leap. TJ to opening day starter after tearing an oblique and a quad, having tons of back problems, and that's an insane story. For years, the Nationals fans have heard, oh, just wait until Cade Cavalli gets healthy. Now he's healthy. And recently, he's looked like a legitimate frontline starter, putting together 3 straight quality starts as of the 10th. While striking out hitters at a high rate, he's got, let's see, he is 3-4, but he's got a good ERA, 3.88. Has started 14 games, 69 innings pitched, and 76 strikeouts, which is up there in the Nationals or in the National League totals. He has those 14 game starters, the most in the National League. So you see, he is settling into that true ace role, which is something the Nationals have missed for a long time. Ever since Scherzer was gone, ever since Mackenzie Gore tried that role, and it didn't work out that well for him. And he has been a top starter. And MLB.com even has noticed that this stretch established him as a long-standing number one starter, at least moving forward. So, again, this is a direct quote from MLB.com. For most of the 2026 season, any conversation about the Nationals' success has started with their offense. But in their 6-3 win over the Guardians on Tuesday night at Progressive Field, okay, so this is from a week ago or so, starting pitcher Cade Cavalli absolutely changed that conversation, allowing 1 run over 6 innings, over 6 1/3 innings for his 3rd straight quality start. And spent most of the contest making quick works of Cleveland's offense as he permitted just 3 base runners through the first 5 innings and allowing only 1 runner to reach second base. That's a really good start, especially when the Nationals, they only started scoring until after the 6th inning there. So this is the kind of thing that the Nationals have been missing. They can't get back from a loss. They weren't able to do that last year because they couldn't have starters go deep into games. Their average starting pitcher went 4 1/3 innings. Now, You have Cavalli, you have Griffin, guys that are going deeper into games. Zach Littell threw 8 innings the other day out of the bullpen, right? Cavalli's getting, not only is he just striking out everybody that he faces, not everybody, he's thinking like Max Scherzer would, and he's pitching to the big guys like Max Scherzer would. He's not trying to get, the MLB.com article, it mentions how he gets Jose Ramirez to hit a sac fly. And now the thing with Cavalli here, he was not trying to strike out Jose Ramirez. Most pitchers, they'll go, all right, this is their best hitter, Jose Ramirez, former 8-time All-Star, I believe. One of the best third basemen of our generation. And how do you get him out? Well, he gets a sacrifice fly out of him because the bases were loaded, and he got out of the inning just a batter later by having Chase DeLauder, one of the Guardians' most promising prospects there, to line out to Jacob Young. And Cavalli said after the game, here, this is from the Washington Post, where's this? No, I can't find it. There it is. Oh, this is another MLB.com. Okay. He says he was looking for the best pitch that he could throw in that situation to get the outcome he wanted. And then he outlined his entire thought process of how this worked. And how... So if you look at that at bat, he had thrown a curveball to Ramirez already in the AB. And he didn't want to throw him another curveball because we know what Jose Ramirez does to curveballs. He hits them 500 feet, which is not ideal when you have the bases loaded. But you have Keibert Ruiz, who's slowing the game down, making a mound visit, changing the tenor of that at-bat. You have Cade Cavalli thinking and brainstorming about these pitches. Now, this alone wouldn't make him an all-star. But it's the fact this and all of this combined. He generated 13 whiffs in a start against the Braves, which was his career high. Got 4 strikeouts there. 13 strikeouts. No, sorry. Boy, this article is all messed up. 13 strikeouts against the Braves, and had his the start before that against the Marlins, had a career high 10 strikeouts, and then beat that just a start later. Had 4 of those strikeouts came on the curveball, and 3 with the fastball, and then faced a Cleveland lineup that had 4 left-handed starters and 4 switch hitters. So he goes against all opposite sides of the plate, and he's thinking about his plan of attack. And this is such a promising thing for a young pitcher, especially one who hasn't had a lot of big league experience. And he has become the face of this rotation. His strikeout stuff, it plays anywhere. It gets the results it needs. Obviously, that sac fly to Jose Ramirez in the big spot with 1 out. Every contending team, this team is contending for the wild card. Yes, there I said it. Every contending team needs an ace, and he is filling that role. Now, of course, you have that anti-Cavalli case now. NL loaded with pitchers. Had a few rough starts mixed in with those dominant outings. And traditional stats aren't going to jump off the page compared to the Cy Young candidates. Now, here's the thing. If Cade Cavalli isn't an all-star, is it because he isn't good enough? Or is it just because the National League is stacked? Because think about it, all of the National League starting rotation. I mean, just look at the Dodgers. You got Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Snell. You got so many A-listers. Here, I'm going to see what exactly the Dodgers' rotation is. Yeah, I mean, obviously Shohei's been an incredible force. You have Jacob Missorowski, who's just been, I'm convinced he was created in a lab. Christopher Sanchez, still scoreless forever. Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, Chase Burns, Hunter Green, those 1-2 punch with the Reds. I mean, the NL pitching is unreal. You have Aaron Ashby. Why? Where did Aaron Ashby come from? And yet he leads the NL in wins. Right? This is crazy. And then, of course, you got Mason Miller. You have so many good bullpen arms. right? You got Bryce Elder, who is transitioned all of a sudden. He's becoming a great pitcher now. He's pitching like Adam Wainwright. It's ridiculous. You have Freddie Peralta, Max Meyer of the Marlins, who last year had a 5 ERA. Michael Lorenzen, who's now on the Rockies, who used to be for the Angels. He sucked there, went to the Reds, sucked there, now is on the Rockies and is good. You have Clayton Beeter for the Nats. He's doing well, even in the bullpen. Adjusted ERA plus Sanchez is 2.82. Okay, that's just ridiculous. Fielding independent pitching, Sanchez leads the league. I mean, this NL pitching is just too good. Bubba Chandler has allowed only... That's ridiculous. I mean, that's crazy. Jameson Taillon has barely allowed any home runs. Or, excuse me, no, that's the opposite. Foster Griffin, he's only allowed 14. Right? You've got... The stats here are just unbelievable in the National League. Ohtani, 5.2 WAR. That's not including his batting WAR. This is just his pitching WAR. And he still has a 5.2. That's insane. Okay? Sorry, a bit of a rant there. But the Nationals, I mean, it's not because Cade Cavalli is good enough. Because he's a good pitcher. He is an all-star pitcher. But if he isn't, it's not because he's not good enough. It's because the National League is just filled with incredible pitching talent. Especially as we move into an era where you have to be able to touch 100 just to get drafted, right? Okay. Let's switch gears. Foster Griffin. Now, this one, honestly, this is my favorite story. Because a year ago, nobody knew who this guy was. He was playing in Japan. And now he's one of the biggest rotations, or biggest reasons the rotation has stabilized. Look at this. His story is awesome. Former first-round pick. Injuries derailed the career. Went to Japan. Reinvented himself. Became an NPB All-Star and was a finalist for the Sawamura Award, which is basically their equivalent to the Cy Young. And returned to MLB with Washington, throwing an all-new splitter, an all-new fastball that's harder than it ever had been. But that's not a normal baseball journey. Now, here's the thing with Griffin. He has that new fastball, but he isn't overpowering, right? He will maybe throw you a 93-mile-an-hour fastball once in a while. He's like Madison Bumgarner. He doesn't throw the ball hard, but he throws the ball so accurately, has an incredible pitch mix, is an expert with sequencing, especially even with a young catcher in Keibert Ruiz. He has experience in Japan. He got to study in Japan with, played with the Yomiuri Giants, who are famously have a great coaching staff, and then over there the Chunichi Dragons as well have a. And then he just is able to find ways to win with command, and according to TalkNats.com, reports from spring training, he essentially, this is a quote, essentially rebuilt himself overseas by embracing analytics and refining how he attacks hitters. This is such an important piece, especially when you've got a new coaching staff, because every rotation is a flashy ace. Not every rotation has the reliable veteran that takes the ball every fifth day and gives you a chance to win. He's become one of the most consistent starters in the MLB. He has transformed the rotation from a weakness into a strength now of the Washington Nationals. That's a great comeback story. And he's winning games, a lot of games, while receiving no national attention. Almost no national attention. No, he doesn't have that strikeout total that grabs voters. He doesn't have the prospect buzz of Cade Cavalli. But that's why he's such a fascinating candidate. A year ago, people were saying the same thing about Christopher Sanchez. Why isn't he getting enough recognition? And now, Christopher Sanchez has thrown, 60 consecutive scoreless innings? Now, the reason why the Nationals, this pitching staff is so good is because you're thinking about who's more valuable. You've got Cade Cavalli or Foster Griffin. Cavalli's the guy you start in Game 1 of a playoff series. Griffin is the guy you keep your season from falling apart in May and June. One's the future ace. One is going to be a future Cy Young finalist. And then one's going to be a stabilizer. One is going to be the guy that will go out, throw a solid 5-6 innings, and will get the job done, which is something the Nationals have missed for years. Ever since their World Series winning team. The reason why they won Game 7 of that World Series is because they had their third starting pitcher, Patrick Corbin, who has fallen apart in recent years, but I will always love him for that 2019 season because he went in through 3 innings against the greatest offense in the world at the time, the Houston Astros in 2019, and they were cheating. Just gonna point that out. And through 3 innings against that after Strasburg had pitched the day before. Scherzer gave 5 innings despite the fact that he was hurt. This rotation in 2026 is showing signs of what made that rotation in 2019 so good. And the reason the Nationals can legitimately talk about having 4 All-Stars is because they finally have both of these roles in the rotation. One future ace, one stabilizer, and that's what separates this team from the rebuilding clubs that we've seen over the past few years that have rebuilt them and rebuilt again and have just been disasters. Combine that with a new front office, and this team is unstoppable. I mean, we've seen already the product. Blake Butera, there's going to be a lot more coming out on him. But when people talk about the Nationals All-Stars, the conversation starts with James Wood and C.J. Abrams. Rightfully so. They are stars. They're the faces of the franchise. They are the guys getting the team highlights, getting the national attention, and they deserve starting spots. Both of them. We already went over why that's important. But another reason this team is in the playoff conversation, where you would have been laughing at that last year, is not just because they can score runs. It's because they have Cade Cavalli. It's because they have Foster Griffin to transform this pitching staff. Cavalli has become the ace Washington has been searching for since the rebuild began. They have a guy that will pitch every 5th day. They have a guy that was the easy decision to start opening day. Every good team needs a guy who can take the ball on opening day and make opponents believe that they're in for a long night every 5th day. That's what he's becoming. And Foster Griffin might be the most underrated player in all of the National League because he doesn't throw 100. He doesn't make SportsCenter every night. He just goes out there, again, every 5th day and gives the Nationals a chance to win baseball games. Do the Nationals, do they really deserve 4 All-Stars? I believe that there is a real argument they do. Wood is a lock. Abrams will be there. Cavalli has built himself a heck of a case, and Griffin deserves far more attention than he is getting. But maybe the bigger story isn't about the All-Star game at all. Maybe it's what 4 legitimate All-Star candidates can say about where this franchise is going. Because a few years ago, the Nationals were tearing everything down and hoping for a brighter future. And today they're debating whether 4 players deserve to represent them in Philadelphia. That's not just progress. That's proof that the rebuild is working. They completely overhauled the front office. Paul Taboni is now, and Blake Butera, they are a well-oiled machine that have had a new coaching staff. They have helped develop all these pitchers in the short time that they've been here. Now think about what will happen in 5 years when these guys are fully developed. They're older. They know. They have so much experience. They have built so many new relationships with this new coaching staff. And that's not just progress. It's proof the rebuild is working. And for the first time in a long time, Nationals fans aren't just watching baseball for the future. They're watching a team that is in contention for a wild card spot, in contention right now. The Nationals have gone from rebuilding to relevant, which is the real story here. So that's going to do it for DC Sports Talk Xtra tonight. Once again, I'm your host, Jack Morrison. Thank you very much for listening. And if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram at JMO Sports Broadcasting. That's at JMO Sports Broadcasting. Where you can see all the DC Sports Talk Extra highlights, some of my play-by-play reels, and anything else you'd like from the whole Jack Morrison sports media world. Again, if you'd like, you can go ahead and, if you're local to the DC area, and you're a fan of baseball, you can go ahead and watch the Cal Ripken League baseball, summer college league. I do play-by-play and public address announcing for the DC Grays. Excellent team there. Have gotten off to a rocky start, but it's still a lot of fun if you want to catch more of the DC Sports Talk Extra host here. So again, thrilled to be back haven't been here in a while, man. This is great. CJ Abrams doesn't start the All-Star game. That's gonna be something, man. All right, guys, vote for the Nationals All-Stars. I will see you soon.
This ball is crushed. See ya!